from above. Dominating this perspective, a vast tract of land sweeps across 2 continents and 11 time zones. A confederation of states, which, despite recent defections, remains the largest political entity on Earth. This land is often described as Russia. Yet, as recent events have brought clearly into focus, Russians are but one of more than 100 ethnic groups in this confederation. A kaleidoscope of 290 million people speaking over 80 different languages. They are the human face of the Soviet Union. The Sybil family, one of 6 in the Icebreaker series, live and work in the Estonian city of Tallinn. Tallinn is a picturesque medieval city on the shores of the Baltic Sea. It's the capital city of the small nation of Estonia. Until recently a republic within the Soviet Union, Estonia is now independent. In the old section of the town is the Estonian National Archive. Deputy Director of the archive is Mari Sybil. The caller is seeking some historical text. With independence, there's an increased interest in the history of this Baltic state and the origins of its distinctive language. Estonians belong to the southern branch of the Baltic Finns. They reached the Baltic from southeastern Russia at the beginning of the Christian era. Their language is Finno-Ugric, akin to Finnish and Hungarian. Mari Sybil is an expert in Estonian literature and art. Her husband Uno is the chief surgeon of Tallinn. He's also the city's chief medical officer, at the top of Tallinn's medical hierarchy. Uno's an authority on gastrointestinal surgery. Today, however, it's a relatively routine hernia operation. For Uno Sybil, life is about to change. At 60, he's retiring from the position of chief surgeon, although he will continue as a consultant at Tallinn Hospital. Importantly, he will also chair the Health Education Committee for the new Estonian government. Their son has just qualified as a surgeon as well. Hilja is 24 and has attended the University of Tartu in the south of Estonia. His specialist research area is biogenetics, and after his summer vacation, he'll start further research studies at Tallinn Hospital. Also continuing with her studies during the summer vacation is Hilja's sister. Annalie is 23 and a trainee ceramics artist with the Estonian Art Institute. For centuries, ceramics have been a traditional craft in Estonia. But Annalie will do most of her final year studies in Helsinki, just across the Baltic in Finland. Annalie's other interests are the graphic arts and sculpture. Right now, she's working on a new design style for a striking set of plates. They will form part of her coursework, and later, Annalie hopes to present them to her parents. The design of the Sybil's hometown, Tallinn, is almost 1,000 years old. It began as a fortified hilltop city in the 11th century and grew into a flourishing and wealthy medieval Hanseatic port. The architecture reflects the influence of waves of occupiers: Vikings, Germans, Swedes, and finally, Russians. Estonians continually maintain the fabric of the old city centre, using traditional materials and methods. Tallinn has received European awards for its central city restoration. Civic pride is part of a strong Estonian nationalism, a recognition of their own unique history and distinctive cultural blend. It's late in the evening, but the northern summer sun will not set until after midnight. Dusk then mingles with dawn, and the sun will rise again at 3 a.m. It is now already approaching midnight. The Estonian birthday song wakes Uno on the stroke of his 60th birthday. It's a Sibyl family tradition to surprise the birthday person at any moment in the 24 hours of their day. This year, right at the start, with presents, candles, kisses, and a bottle of celebratory champagne.
Siis on veel midagi näidata vist mulle vaja. See on tõesti kena. Ja pruumi ka niimoodi.
Õnne.
Minu arvas.
What about me? Asks Hilja.
Ette.
Minu terviseks.
Nii. Ja naerge,
Sa nägid või?
Annalie gives her father the sculpture she's made. He checks the base for the marks of her initials.
Kallak on see tugev moodi kallak. Kogu aeg kaldab tahapoole. Selle rattaga saab
From Mari and Hilja, there's a new bicycle for his retirement. In the morning, a chance to try it out on the leafy lanes behind their suburban home. A little wobbly on his first outing, the bicycle will be very handy. Currently, buying petrol for the family car is extremely difficult and expensive. There are plenty of fresh vegetables. Most of these are from the family garden. Food's not unobtainable in Estonia, a food exporting nation. It's just very expensive. Mari has found that supermarket prices have risen at least fivefold with the economic changes of the last few years. As much as possible, the Sibyls eat out of their own garden. Uno, however, is pleased that his nation has achieved complete independence. Estonia has come full circle in his lifetime, back to the nationhood it briefly enjoyed between the First and Second World Wars. A private and beautiful garden is part of the affluent lifestyle the Sibyl family enjoys. It'll be the setting for a birthday gathering in the afternoon, a garden party for Uno, his family and their friends. Uno gives the house he built himself a final touch-up. It's an important day in the life of one of Tallinn's foremost citizens.
Ja, väga meeldiv. tervitan oma korda.
The traditional birthday song again for Uno gives him 1,000 greetings. May all the flowers bloom for you. May all the starlight shine for you.
Laps.
Vaat tuligi välja. Esimese harjutamise peale. Naari peale.
A birthday cake coated in baked cottage cheese. Estonians share with Scandinavians a sweet tooth. The Baltic republics, where dairy farming is a major industry, abound in creams and cheeses, a luxury in Moscow. The Sybil's friends are from the medical fraternity and their city's professional and cultural elite. Many are key figures in the newly independent republic. They have cause to celebrate. The Sybil's home the morning after the birthday celebrations. None of the family are morning people. Mari wakes up a rather reluctant Annalie. She wants her to help with the breakfast.
Tõuse üles.
Nii vähe, et ei mäletagi.
Tõuse üles, hommikusöök on hästi valmis ja tule.
The constant calling of his nickname has had little impact on Hilja. Until shaken, he doesn't stir.
Hommikusöök on valmis ja tule.
It's common for grown children to remain in the family home. Accommodation is often very difficult to find, especially for the unmarried. Uno began to build this house 25 years ago. It's large and rambling, affordable only because of the Sybil's position in Estonian society. Most Estonians live in vast complexes of small apartments, a legacy of their Soviet past. Annalie and Hilja are both likely to remain here until they're married. In fact, their father talks of adding another room above the garage to house a studio and kiln for Annalie's ceramic work. This morning, before breakfast, Uno and Hilja are going jogging with the family dog. Their home is about 10 kilometres up the Baltic coast from the city centre, in Tallinn's upmarket garden suburb of Pirita. It's a family ritual that on most fine mornings, while breakfast is cooking, Uno and Hilja exercise the dog, and themselves, in the public forest which lies between the house and the sea, only 100 metres away. Household roles are not strictly defined in the Sybil family, but Mari is the best cook. The family's youngest member is a pedigreed black Newfoundland puppy with a very un-Estonian name, Victoria Hunt. The Sybils call her Terry. Saturday breakfast is a chance for the family to get together. On weekdays, jobs or lessons to hurry to usually mean that breakfast is snatched on the way out of the house. Today, there's a chance to catch up with what they've been doing and discuss family issues. The discussion these days focuses on their country's recent independence and future plans, especially Uno's forthcoming retirement and his new role heading the government's Health Education Committee, designing a life skills curriculum for all Estonian schools.
Ta on nii õrn, ma proovisin.
And as it's Saturday, there's no rush. Only a sunny day's relaxation to look forward to. Uno is an expert sailor and a member of Tallinn's Olympic Yacht Club. The yachts are owned by the club and members can use any in the fleet. Today, the family, except for Mari, who's not a keen sailor, are aboard a 10-metre sloop. It's named Kalev, after an ancient Estonian folk hero. The seaside suburb of Pirita has a pleasure craft anchorage, and it's also the base of the Olympic Yacht Club. Young club members train on optimists, learn a craft designed in New Zealand in the South Pacific. The sailing events of the 1980 Olympics were held in Pirita Harbour, and the Olympic shore facility is now the headquarters of the local club. Uno is something of a local sailing hero. He's won international yachting trophies for Estonia. The talk today is of an upcoming challenge race to Helsinki. While outside the clubroom, it's high summer on one of the Baltic's most popular seaside resorts, Pirita Beach. Tallinn is a popular resort, and not only for Estonians. Over the past couple of decades, Russian families have flocked here in their thousands, escaping the struggle of life in high-rise city apartments for the struggle of life under canvas. The tented hordes are a summer invasion. But Russians who permanently sought the higher standard of living in Estonia now make up almost 40% of the country's 1.5 million population. This inflow of migrants has increased the tensions between the two races. The Russians fear for their future in an independent Estonia. On this hot summer's day, conflict seems far away. This spot on Tallinn River is, surprisingly, only a few hundred metres from the highways and amenities of the city. At the beach, Hilja is heading away from the crowds. He's an avid windsurfer and keen to try out one of the new lighter boards imported from Finland. The beach style, and the rentals man, could well have been imported from California. Before he starts, a few tips. These boards behave quite differently from the older ones he's used to. Out on the water, Hilja shows a style which could be described as steady rather than flashy. But today, there's not a good wind. Only 80 kilometres across the Baltic from the nearest Scandinavian coast, young Estonians readily adopt the fashions and styles of Western Europe. The band's called Head Nurse. They describe their music as Estonian metal and are the country's most popular rock group. Their songs deal with contemporary issues, especially Estonian nationalism. The music expresses the pent-up energy of Estonian youth, the new confidence of hard-won independence. There are two ports in Tallinn. The older docks of derricks and cranes beneath the medieval city, and further round the bay, the new container and freight terminal, computerized and automated. One of the main ports of the Baltic Sea, Tallinn benefited from the traffic of Soviet cargo. Estonians enjoyed one of the highest standards of living in the Soviet Union. In contrast to the often drab stores of the USSR, those in Tallinn are almost garish. There's more colour and more variety than in Moscow, and more style. This cafe is a cinema cafe, a very civilised way to watch the movies. This movie's Russian, with Estonian subtitles. And in the streets outside, another import of Russian culture, the water machines. A few cents gets you mineral water, served up in a real glass. At the Tallinn town hall, there's a street front clinic, where Uno Sybil, as chief surgeon, plays another role.
Väiksed diskid, nagu nimetatakse nähtavasti, see on lülikeha muutustest tingitud see asi. Kas te
2 or 3 times a week, patients are able to get a diagnosis and treatment from the city's top medical man. As an inheritance from Soviet practice, these consultations are free. The patient, a gymnast, appears to have recovered from a neck strain and is given a clean bill of health. At the Estonian National Archive, it's time for the weekly staff meeting. Murray, an expert in Estonian culture, is second in command at the archive. The director runs through the agenda. The archive is planning now to shift to a new building, and there's a long list of minor bureaucratic problems. Mari is asked to comment on some anomalies in the architect's report.
Siis märgitakse positiivselt ära, et me oleme siiski oma väljaannete selle oletatava graafikuga ja sellega seoses on niisugused väiksed.
Away from the problems of the workplace, Mari gains a great deal of pleasure from her extensive vegetable and fruit garden. For Mari, this garden is both a hobby and, in these times of high inflation in the Estonian economy, a cheap provider of fresh food. The Sybils are a close-knit family who have established for themselves a lifestyle and home that's a private oasis, a personal retreat from their otherwise quite public professional lives. But it's become harder in the past year or so for the Sybils to maintain their lifestyle. What they can grow outside in their garden or inside their hothouse is of increasing value. It could also help the family budget if Terry got serious about becoming vegetarian. For its northern latitude, Estonia enjoys a relatively good climate. But tomatoes and lettuce flourish better under hothouse conditions. The temperature in July averages 15 degrees Celsius. But in winter, the coastal waters will have a covering of ice for up to 100 days. While Mari prepares the family lunch, there's another pair of helping hands in the garden. Uno is also a keen gardener and has further plans to increase the variety of his flowering plants in retirement. In winter, the house is heated by wood fires. But these logs are for a summer sauna. The family built their own sauna at the back of the garage. They use it at least once a week. Very much a Scandinavian people, the Estonians use saunas in the Finnish style. It's very hot. The air temperature is more than boiling point. So hot, they wear felt hats to protect their hair. Then fresh birch leaves stimulate the skin in another Finnish sauna tradition. Finally, it's outside for the last stage. Finishing off with a cold water plunge. It's 10:30 at night in this northern Baltic summer. Still daylight, although the air is now cool and the water chilly. Adjoining the family's sauna is a small, comfortable, candlelit room. The Sibbles relax here after the sauna for a beer and a family chat. A week after his 60th birthday, Uno's colleagues gather to officially farewell him as Chief Surgeon and Medical Officer of Tallinn. The introductory remarks are made by Uno's boss, the Chief Surgeon for all Estonia. Uno will retire to allow the title and its responsibilities to be passed to a younger person. But he'll continue to serve the new Estonia. He's a very respected man. Tributes are paid to him in the form of flowers, a tradition here in Estonia. He replies that he hopes he can live up to their adulations. It's an emotional landmark for Uno, as he talks then of the camaraderie and fellowship that has marked his career. He urges his colleagues to be holistic in their approach to medicine and to life. Despite the official tribute, Uno will continue with his work until his own summer vacation begins. But the rest of the family are taking a few days' break. They're off to St. Petersburg, in neighbouring Russia, to check out living arrangements for Annalie, who plans to spend a month or so at a ceramics factory there. They're also looking for a special gift for Uno, as the summer has yet to bring another important family celebration. It's an 8-hour trip by car, up the Baltic coast and across the flat coastal farmlands of northern Estonia. The main agricultural activity here is livestock farming. The scene seems idyllic, but as in many nations, the rural population here is declining, as Estonians are attracted to the higher wages of the cities. But it's a very pleasant spot for a stop on the trip, and a chance for Hilja to relate an amusing anecdote. At the Russian border, two ancient forts glare at each other across the river boundary, symbols of tensions past and present. There's little other distinction. The countryside is similar, but the country and the culture is suddenly Russian. They're approaching the outskirts of St. Petersburg, formerly Leningrad. With 6 million people, it's the second largest city in the Soviet Union. Once the capital of Russia, it vies today with Moscow as an economic and cultural centre. Yet however important its present, it is the past which permeates this city. It was the restless genius of Tsar Peter the Great who ordered this city built out of the marshland, a desire to drag his country from medieval darkness into the age of enlightenment. It's been called the Venice of the North, but where Venice is warm, bustling and contained, St. Petersburg is cool, balanced and spacious. Some of Europe's foremost architects of the early 18th century were employed by Peter the Great to build his new capital. No expense was spared. But the Tsarist palaces of the past are now the museums of the masses. It is perhaps an irony that no other nation has lavished so much care and expertise in preserving its aristocratic heritage as the Soviet Union. The Russians have always said that St. Petersburg contains their soul. It also contains their pain. In the vast mass cemetery for the civilian dead of the siege of St. Petersburg, it's possible to feel the open wound that is the pain of Russia. No understanding of Russia is complete without an understanding of that pain. Despite past glories and present power, through 1,500 years of history, the Russians have been among the most invaded and wounded of peoples. The siege of St. Petersburg is the most recent and most awesome of these woundings. St. Petersburg was surrounded by the Nazi army in 1941. The siege was to last a devastating 900 days. 3 years in which almost 1 million people lost their lives by bombardment, slow starvation, and disease. Only a few of the youngest could be evacuated. The rest remained and struggled to survive. Blockaded and bombarded, they clung to the vestiges of normality through the depths of 3 bitter winters. But the Nazis never won the city. The spirit of St. Petersburg survived, but the hurt remains. Today, at the point where the siege was finally broken, this statue of a dead child in its mother's arms stands in memory of those 900 terrible days. And treasured in the Siege Museum, this photograph of 10-year-old Tanya, whose scribbled diary is itself the most simple monument. December 28, Zhenya is dead. January 25, Grandma is dead. March 17, Leka is dead. April 13, Uncle Vasha is dead. May 10, Uncle Lyosha, Mother. Everybody are dead. I am alone, Tanya. Some days later, Tanya herself died too. Summer crowds in St. Petersburg's Nevsky Prospect, over 3 kilometers long and the busiest shopping street in the Soviet Union. The Sybils are here both for the shopping and to help Annalie get organized for her later stay in the city. They separate as Annalie heads off to visit the ceramics factory. Mari and Hilya are off to look for a present for Uno. This is the city of Tchaikovsky and Dostoevsky, of Pushkin's Fated Duel, of Diaghilev and the Imperial Ballet. So, yes, in St. Petersburg, the taxi drivers really do listen to the classics. It's a cultural city, and at this time of the year, very much a summer city too. At the ceramics factory, Annalie switches from her native tongue to Russian. The talk is of glazes and firing processes, and when she'll be starting her month of practical work. In St. Petersburg, ceramic art is on a far larger scale than Annalie is used to in Estonia, although much of the decoration is still carried out by skilled artists.
Скажем, вот такие используются красители, которые менее устойчивые, то
Annalie's month here will give her experience in large-scale commercial production and its processes. And its scale that attracts Estonians to visit St. Petersburg's large department stores. Although in these tough economic times in Russia, the supply of goods can be extremely erratic. Shopping is fraught with difficulty. There are frequent shortages of basic commodities and luxury goods. Sometimes there'll be a great deal of one product and little of another. The Russians shop fervently when goods become available, on the understanding that they may be unobtainable later. Mari and Hilja are hoping to find a piece of crystalware. Uno has a passion for crystal, and his family want to buy him a fine and large goblet. For Mari, this gift is for an even more important event than Uno's birthday or retirement. This year, it's their silver wedding anniversary. It's worth spending a little extra. Outside the store, the inevitable Soviet queue. In the streets, it's a way of life. People lining up at shops and at kiosks for fruit juice, ice creams, or this drink, kvass. Though it looks like beer, kvass is a popular non-alcoholic beverage, cheap and thirst-quenching, but it's definitely an acquired taste. It's brewed from stale bread. Summer or winter, there'll be a kvass seller on almost every city street corner in the Soviet Union. And that's true even here, in the summer streets of the very cultured and beautiful St. Petersburg. Back home in Estonia, Uno uses the family car to head for the hospital. He drives seldom nowadays because petrol prices have risen steeply since independence. But today is special. It's his last official day as Tallinn's chief surgeon, and the start of his summer vacation. Ahead of him are fresh responsibilities in his new role heading the new Estonian Education Committee. His final task as the city's medical chief sees him dropping in at the hospital to check up on the hernia case. Uno will still act as a consultant, and he's looking forward to more time with patients, doing research, and his new role designing the health and life education syllabus for Estonia's new school system. He comments that the healing is very good for a 75-year-old. At their local supermarket, Mari and Hilja have joined the queue. It's not a queue for food, it's for a basket. Each empty one passed to the head of the line. A limited supply of baskets is one way this store exercises some control over how many people circulate at once. Mari and Hilja are buying for the family vacation, though they too will stock up on any other items which may be scarce later. Prices have risen sharply with the market reforms over the past few years. The shelves seem reasonably well stocked, but Estonia is a consumer goods and food export nation. As part of the Soviet Union, it was always one of the wealthier republics. Also, this is summer, and any food shortages will be more likely with the onset of winter. With wages remaining static and prices inflating, the Estonian standard of living has recently declined. At home again in the warmth of an Estonian July, Mari takes care of some domestic chores. She's used an automatic washing machine, a sign of some prestige in a society still dogged by infrequent and inferior Soviet-style manufacturing. But she doesn't use a dryer. It's not a priority for her. Without foreign currency for the black market, it's still difficult for even privileged families like the Sibbles to get domestic appliances in Estonia. In the Soviet Union, it's close to impossible. Hilja takes time out with his friend Madis to spend an afternoon listening to some of the records from the Sibyl's very impressive collection. Hilja's wide taste in music has added variety to a collection that's now about 300 albums. Many are from the West, and that's cost the family a great deal of money.
Seda plaati või?
Mängimas.
Isegi jah. Võib-olla pole veel nagu...
Ja siis see Tatariko kindlasti on, jah.
When Estonia was part of the Soviet Union, records, like other cultural products, were subsidized. They cost a few dollars each. But Western albums, largely traded in city parks, can cost as much as $75 US.
Mis sa arvad?
This may sound like Kentucky bluegrass, but it's actually a local Estonian group. Estonians are West European in outlook, and more particularly Scandinavian rather than Russian in their way of life. The Sibyls seem to be especially well off, but they are typical of their level in Estonian society, a level which in many ways equates to other West European professional families. The old central square of Tallinn basks in summer sun as people gather for an afternoon concert. When they were part of the Soviet Union, Estonians were better dressed and better paid than other Soviet citizens. Their lifestyle, a source of envy. Estonians were also more culturally adventurous. This concert may be classic Bach, but as well as their passionate commitment to the past, Estonians champion contemporary music and abstract art. The Baltic people are also sentimentalists. In winter, an Estonian may spend up to a day's wages on a single rose. For Mari and Uno, there is cause for sentiment and celebration. It's a special toast to 25 years of the Sibyl's marriage. The family and their closest friends have gathered in the Sibyl's garden to be on hand as Mari surprises Uno with the crystal goblet she bought in St. Petersburg.
See on küllalt paks, et mitte kergesti puruks minna. Nii et nii nagu...
It's like our life together, Mari tells him. It contains everything.
Kui suur see klaas on? Palun.
Ja nende lapse õitsegu, see õitsegu, see õitsegu. Ja nende lapsed kasvagu, nad kasvagu, nad kasvagu.
At the top of their society, the Sibyl's are a prosperous family of professionals. Supportive of each other, they're successful, they're Estonians, and they're just a little sentimental.